Good morning. How was day 2 yesterday? Did the talks yesterday blow your mind? Like it blew my mind? Yes? Was anyone else blown away by, especially Dr. Stephen Spears' talk about how it cast? And by the way, and was anyone else blown away by the lightning talks last night? that was awesome. You all who did the lightning talks, that was brilliant and so courageous. Last little ask for applause. So initially, in day 1, I had presented why are we here today at the conference for 3 days. Specifically, we're here because we want to transform our organization. We want to learn what we need to learn. We want to meet who we need to meet, and we want to get re-energized to keep up the fight just one more year. Are we fulfilling that objective in the first 2 days? So I will say day 2, I thought was amazing. In fact, I think it might be the best day in the entire DevOps Enterprise Conference series. And as good as that day was, I think day 3 will be even more challenging and interesting. So let me just put that out there as to try to declare that into being. I was telling a couple of you last night about how crazy yesterday was. So you might not know that as the conference progresses, our safety buffer gets depleted. In other words, more and more of the work and the content is being generated backstage right before it gets presented. And so if I look a little harried or panicked, that's why. But yesterday, something happened that has never happened before, and it was terrifying. I was rewriting the script for the DevOps confession backstage, trying to make it shorter, and so I could emote more. And I'm furiously typing away, and Jessica, who does speaker operations backstage, said, "You need to go up on stage now." So I look at the Google Doc I'm working in, and I'm only 75% done. And I'm thinking, I am totally screwed. And I turn over to my compatriot, Jeff Gallimore, and I say, "Jeff, you got to finish for me. Thank you." And I get up on stage. So I'm reading the script, praying that by the time I get to the end, Jeff will be done with it. I don't know if I can really paint what that feels like. But it's like, throwing a Hail Mary pass and just hoping that by the time you get there, the ball has been thrown and it will land right where it needs to. And it's times like that when you really want to have someone that you trust, someone that you have the shared goal in mind, and you know that they're going to be there for you, and that was that. So here's what it meant, is that I was reading the script for the first time. And so maybe you knew this, but so here's what I was seeing on stage on my iPad. It is like a teleprompter, right? This is, exactly what I read. We're making huge changes right beforehand, and I know that if I don't go slowly, I'm going to run into just changes, and I'm not going to have anything to say. I wanted you to know that when I was reading it, I was getting to a point where I was reading text that I didn't write, that I was seeing for the first time, and it was actually something that when I read, I actually laughed out loud because this is what Jeff wrote. And I'll just read it to you. In his frenzy, he opens up his laptop, make a gesture, to open up a laptop. And I'm not sure if you know this, but that was the only applause I got during that thing. It was because Jeff wrote that. So thank you, Jeff. All right, so going back to goals. So yesterday I had shared Brian Eno's notion of Scenius, right? And I had mentioned that one of the characteristics of a great Scenius is that there is this rapid dissemination of tools and techniques, of which there are so many. But one of them that has been front and center for me is this notion of, how do we convince who we need to convince that we need a better way of working, not just in technology, but also in the business leadership domain. And Mick took Dr. Perez, and he said, the prevailing thinking, especially for the tactical technology work, is really dominated from the thinking 2 ages ago, right? That's Taylorism, and we can trace a lot of the tools and techniques of project management, to project management. And so I had proposed to you that what do we replace it with? I think is going to be greatly influenced by this movement called dynamic learning organizations. And I think Dr. Steven Spear is the foremost scholar of this. And imagine my delight when I find out that what he's presenting on really I think shows that. And it just occurred to me when he was presenting this, as he was talking about actually I think it's Dr. Admiral Rickover, about the third capability, how to create local learnings and turn that into global greatness. And he's even made it more pithy, saying it's spread, share, and teach. And I think that's really what this is, right? So I think it's, I think this conference, this community, the CENIUS, really embodies one of the 3 critical capabilities. I just want to reflect on a couple of other things that I learned that I thought were just incredibly impactful. One was just the notion of, what is the time value of money and the value that we create and the value we lose by being late to markets. And he showed the example of the pharmaceutical where there's capital costs of $2 to $3 billion. And I can't remember exactly the numbers he chose. I'm going to go back to the video and find out. But I think he said for every day that we are late, that's $30 million that we'll never get. First to market takes something like 60%. Second to market gets 25, 15. The third to market gets 10. And everyone else, he said, flush that money down the toilet, right? They will never get that money back. So I think, what a great frame in terms of being able to paint the value of speed. And then, of course, to be able to show that there is something really wrong with rigid planning, right, as evidenced and described by the Battle of Midway, how that the battle was actually lost in 1923 because that's when they'd set doctrine, right? And that was and the 600-page book that's entombed in. So for me, that was just some of the most impactful things that I had gotten out of Dr. Steven Spear's work. So hopefully that motivates to you, why I believe that dynamic learning organizations will be the frame, for the management regime for the next age. And by the way, so DevOps is a subset of that. But obviously, dynamic learning organizations is far, far larger, right? And no matter what industry we compete in, or whether it's across all industry verticals, whether they are dependent on technology or not, they will be, winning or losing will depend on outlearning the competition. So the last slide that I want to share from yesterday was this. So this is the that Mick presented. So this maybe that was 2 days ago. I've always had a loose grasp of time, right? I think this is that was day 2, day 1. Can someone tell me what day this was? 1. Okay. So this is the model that Dr. Perez painted. And this was actually introduced to me by Chris Little, who's now at Gartner. But he actually introduced me to this work at the DevOps Days in London in 2011. And here's what is so interesting about Dr. Perez's work. She's saying that the period where in the left, right, the installation period that's driven by financial capital or like venture capital, financial capital, that is a time of wealth creation. But it is really the deployment age, right? After the turning point, where the real wealth gets generated. That is when it wasn't the car manufacturers that made the fortunes. It was cars plus the interstate highway systems plus the supply chains for the next 50 years. That is what created the unprecedented prosperity, a period like we have never seen, in the last, in I think recorded history. And so, the notion is that what's coming next, this age of software, will probably create more wealth than we've ever seen in human history. And that's also a period where of wealth redistribution, right, of wealth equality. So the first period is about wealth inequality, and the second one is about wealth, the rising tide that lifts all boats. So not only does that create wealth, but it also creates, in my opinion, a more just society. So it's going to be a great 30 to 50 years. So that's my comments for the morning. Jeff Gallimore is going to come out, and then I'm going to do another introductory remarks to introduce our first speaker. Jeff.
Thanks, Jade. All right, 2 days down, and we are in the home stretch. How's everybody feeling? Okay, how's everybody really feeling? I want to get a little bit more precise feedback from you all about your attendee experience here. How many of you people feeling like this has been great, totally pumped up, totally excited? Round of applause. Okay, that's pretty good. How many people, based on the people that you've met, the conversations you've had, have realized you're in your tribe, that this is your community, you're sharing with a bunch of like-minded people? How many of you are like that? Okay. How many people are taking back some ideas with them that they've learned from those conversations and from the sessions? Okay? How many people have realized that the struggles and the challenges and the obstacles that they're facing at work are real and that you're not alone? How many people are taking back hope, inspiration, and confidence back to their workplace to try to make some change? And how many people are just totally wiped out at this point? How many are feeling all of the above? That would be me. That would be me. All of the above is the correct answer, at least for me. And you've got some stories that we want to hear about based on all those feelings, the emotions, the interactions that you've had. We want to hear about what you've learned. We want to hear about the people that you've met, the interactions that you've had. We want to hear about the ideas that you're going to try out when you get back to wherever home base is. We want to hear about the actions that you're planning on taking. If you have those stories, share them. We've got a Slack channel called Summit Stories. Share them in that channel before you leave. And even after you go back, again, the Slack workspace is intended to live on after this event. We want to hear how things are going throughout the whole year. Another thanks to our founding partner, IT Rev, and Electric Cloud, and our platinum sponsors, our gold sponsors, our silver sponsors, our media sponsors for getting the word out to all the people who aren't here. Our other sponsors, the Lightning Talks. Who had a great time at the Lightning Talks last night? Those speakers did amazingly well. I don't know if you've ever done a Lightning Talk, but that's a really hard format to deliver a talk in. Really, really hard. And they did a fantastic job. And the industry party sponsor with Delphix and the Wi-Fi with Nike. And one more opportunity for you all to say thanks to the sponsors is to go talk to the sponsors up in the expo hall and get your raffle card stamped, and then fill it out, write your name on it, super important for the raffle. Drop it off at the Electric Cloud booth before 1:45. The raffle is going to happen at 1:45 despite what it says on the bottom of the card. 1:45 is when the raffle is going to happen. Back to the writing your name on it. Really important if you want to win a prize to know who is actually winning the prize. You're going to make the next person who wins your prize really, really happy if you don't write your name on it. All right, couple of scheduling changes. Scott Havens is speaking today at 2 p.m. in Nolita 3 as a breakout speaker. And then unfortunately, we've had one of our speakers fall ill and not going to be able to speak today. So we wish well. Gene, back to you to get day 3 kicked off.
Thank you.